Toothless, Scene 3, The Cave, Part 2. Curly waited for Franklin to leave. Once he was alone, the cowboy casually leaned over and peered around the boulder he was resting against. The statue stood tall in the center of the cave, and his mustache bristled with unease. Curly felt the stone figure was watching him even through the boulder. He looked away, then quickly looked back. He was grateful the statue did not move closer. The cowboy finished cleaning his handgun and gave it a quick twirl around his trigger finger. He popped out the drums of each revolver and did a quick count before locking the drums back in place and reholstering the pistols. 7 rounds left. 7. It was 7 years ago today. This was a memory Curly did not want to recall, yet there it was in the forefront of his mind, refusing to leave. He was with his 2 friends, Harry and Mo, in Prairie County. He couldn't recall precisely what they were doing, just that they were having a good time together. It's been such a long time since he felt that good. They were running through the tall grass when it struck. It was like lightning, too quick for anyone to react. A snake, hidden in the thick grass, had leaped out and bitten Harry. It was so fast, none of them realized what had happened until the snake struck again with the same speed and accuracy. Their cries of laughter turned to screams of shock and terror as Harry fell to the ground from a third bite. Mo scrambled to find a stick, a rock, something to repel the snake. Curly did not move. He could barely breathe through the fear. Mo found a rock and threw it at the snake. Then he grabbed Harry and ran for the road. Curly didn't see what happened to the snake. He just staggered away, shaking helplessly. Harry didn't die, thanks to Mo, but Curly, he could not bring himself to face his friends. The next day, he bought a bus ticket for the city and left the county. He did not look back. He never visited those friends again. But in his mind, he watched his friends being bitten repeatedly, and every time it played in his mind, Curly never moved a muscle. Never again, he had decided. Curly refused to let himself feel that way ever again. His hands were shaking, and a sheen of sweat glistened across his brow despite the coolness of the cave. Curly mopped his head, then stuffed the cleaning rag into his back pocket. The security guard shook himself out of the memory as a system message appeared. Minions, 3, heart. At least it's not 10. Franklin said loud enough for everyone to hear. The others chuckled at his comment. Boss, queen, diamond. No one spoke about this system message. The group remained guarded in their respective places, scanning the cave for hints of their adversaries. Franklin patted the Magi on her back, then approached Albrecht and quietly said, What's a queen mean? It's an underboss, replied Albrecht in a hushed, guarded tone. It's not usually as bad as a boss, but it's definitely worse than a small group of minions. System anomaly detected. Initiating diagnostics. Rebooting. 3 upgrade points awarded. Minions, 3, heart. Boss, queen, diamond. That was strange. Unsure about the system messages that scrolled across his vision, Franklin carefully made his way back to the circus magician and began to tidy up the paramedic bag. Well, shut my mouth. An extra 3 up. Curly hollered excitedly. I'm good with that. Yeah, Albrecht agreed as he walked toward the cowboy. Excited at the prospects of what extra upgrade points could bring, Curly casually looked back at the statue. Something caught his eye, and he leaned in closer, squinting for a better look. Curly, perception. 1, failure, normal DT. The cowboy suddenly jumped and stumbled backward, then returned to his hiding spot behind the large rock, crouching down low and pressing his back firmly against the cold stone. It was there. He swore it was there. Curly tightly squeezed his eyes closed and rubbed them hard. He opened his eyes and quickly looked back at the statue one more time. It was gone. Regardless, the cowboy was confident in what he saw. Hiding in the shadows of that statue was the snake that haunted his intrusive memories. "I got a bad feeling about this place." Albrecht stood next to the cowboy and raised a questioning eyebrow. Curly looked at the mortician. "We better find a way out of here, and real quick." Albrecht sensed something had unnerved the cowboy, though he did not know what. "What? What did you see?" "I don't want to talk about it." Curly's voice was taut and harsh. "Really, we just need to get out of here." "I would really love to talk to you about it." Albrecht paused when he saw Curly's face, then changed his mind. "All right, what do you suppose we do next?" "I don't know. I'm seeing that statue out there. I'm not getting a good vibe from it." As the perturbed cowboy pressed down his unbridled mustache, Albrecht stepped around the large rock to better view the statue. He concentrated on the sculpture to understand why Curly was so apprehensive about it. Albrecht, investigation. 6, success, normal DT. Albrecht cocked his head to the side and had to catch himself from the brief shock and disbelief in what he saw. The dim blue light of the cave was not coming from the stone-carved figure. In fact, it was coming from something in its open hands. Its hands. There it was, in the statue's hands the whole time. Albrecht's eyes opened with overflowing joy and excitement. There it was. "My toothbrush!" Albrecht grabbed Curly's shoulder to steady himself from the shock and excitement of his discovery. Curly looked up in total confusion at Albrecht's reaction to seeing the statue. Without taking his eyes off his prize, nor his hand from Curly's shoulder, Albrecht pointed to the statue and said, "Curly, that is what we are looking for. There in the statue." "Your teeth are in the statue?" "No, my toothbrush." Curly pursed his lips and furrowed his brow. He let out his breath slowly as he formed his thoughts into words. The cowboy did not look at the statue. "So, Albie," Curly said carefully, this just came to me. Do you ever think about just going down to the Dollar Mart or something and getting a new toothbrush? I mean, why's it gotta be that toothbrush?" "No, you don't understand. This toothbrush is not just a toothbrush." What is it, electric or something?" The question broke Albrecht's gaze, and he looked to Curly as if the security guard was speaking alien gibberish. "This toothbrush is used to commune with the souls of the dead. It's part of my family's tradition as morticians. In order to pass souls on to the next world, this toothbrush is fundamental in finding all the unique and identifiable attributes of the soul. By identifying these attributes, I can help those souls pass on to the next stage. Clearly, it's now been tainted with evil, and I don't know what to do." The mortician's voice trailed off in silent thought, leaving Curly slack-jawed and lost in the conversation. "So, that's bad." "Very bad." Albrecht looked back to the statue and saw the evil grin that stretched across its face. This statue was plainly malevolent, and it most certainly was tainting the Eisenberger family toothbrush. Albrecht had to retrieve the family heirloom before the evil could no longer be purged from it. "Did you look at the statue?" Albrecht asked. "You saw how bad the statue is. It's not a nice-looking statue." Curly spared a brief glance over his shoulder, then returned to keeping his back against the rock. "Yeah, I don't see a toothbrush, but okay. Are you sure you don't want to just go home and buy another one?" "So, how did you get yourself wrapped into this?" Franklin asked Bizarria as he checked the bandages wrapped around her head. He smiled at his subtle pun. "You don't seem like someone who Albrecht would hang out with on a regular basis." You mean because I'm from the circus? Bizarria snapped back. I mean, it's not like you circus guys stick around. Franklin took some supplies from the medic bag to apply new dressings over his own wounds. True enough. Bizarria was brusque. Anger from her conversation with the mortician was still boiling near rage and had evaporated the apprehension she initially carried. He has contacts. Let's just say that. He also has a certain set of skills that I needed at the time, skills that myself and my troop needed, and I got myself into trouble because of it. I feel like his skills are dead bodies and pretending to have teeth. Since you have teeth, is this something to do with a dead body? Franklin, mend. 4. Success. Franklin, 1 physical moxie recovery. Yes, you don't want to know the rest. Trust me. My ringmaster from the circus is not a very happy person, nor a friendly one. Franklin zipped the medical bag closed and slung it over his shoulder. Bizarria stood up and took a step away, looking around the cave. Bizarria, level 2. 0. Failure. Normal DT. Nothing significant caught Bess's eye as she scanned the cave. It looked like a typical creepy cave, with the smoothly hewn statue making it even more creepy. That rock sculpture did not belong in this cave. Its presence accented the absurdity of... She couldn't think of what exactly. It just did not belong here. The Magi turned her back to the statue and looked at the tunnel from where they had come. Then she heard something. No, felt something. A faint, soft breeze on the back of her hand, like he was next to her, briefly passing by. He would hum a simple tune. The young man often hummed it while he worked backstage. It was simple and sweet to the Magi. Bizarria's eyes opened wide with horror, only now realizing that her eyes had been closed. I'm in so much trouble, Bizarria whimpered. The humming surrounded her, melting the piece of her memory into mind-filling dread. Bizarria spun around madly, searching for the source of the dead man's tune. She saw the tunnel, her companions, the statue, the shadows. She stopped and looked back at the smiling statue. That grin on the statue. That terrible, freshly carved rock standing central to the cave, smiling broadly at her. It wasn't me! Bizarria screamed at the statue. I promise! Franklin froze mid-adjustment of the medical bag straps, befuddled by the Magi's sudden screams. The humming persisted, simple, sweet, and dreadful. Please, believe me, it's not my fault. Uh-oh, I think I broke it. The doctor muttered quietly to himself. Cautiously, he stepped closer to Bez and reached out to her. Was it something I did? Don't you hear that humming? Bez cried out, grabbing Franklin's sleeveless shirt with both her hands. No. The doctor gently placed his hands on Bizarria's. But I hear rocks grinding in the background. Oh, don't tell me that. Bez let go of Franklin and turned away from him. She curled into a ball and desperately held herself, whispering quiet comforts to push away the fear and anxiety. Franklin carefully stepped away from the balled-up Magi. He then waved, trying to get the mortician's attention. Since Albrecht had been the resident crazy from the start, Franklin hoped the old man would have the best insight into handling this circus magician. As Franklin waved for Albrecht's attention, the rock grinding suddenly intensified throughout the cave, and then ended with a deafening snap of stones breaking. Everyone jumped from the violent crack, then watched with trepidation as the forgotten drops became small streams of falling water. Rivulets widened along cave walls, and puddles quickly began to form, deepen, and coalesce on the slick cave floor. Oh, no! Bez was still curled and holding herself as she saw the water falling from above and pooling down below. Franklin looked around at the falling water and sniffed the air. Hey, guys, Franklin said. Doesn't this smell familiar? Oh, no! Bizarria screamed as she vainly tried to curl into a tighter ball. It smells like... Franklin took a moment longer to identify the smell. It had hints of algae and notes of settled wet decay. It smells like lake water. Albrecht was captivated by his discovery, unperturbed by Curly's fear, Bizarria's screams, or Franklin's concerns. The breaking rocks and increased water were but a nuisance, minor inconveniences that attempted to distract him from his true purpose. Soon he would be restored with his toothbrush, the key, the ultimate goal of his journey. Confident in his purpose, the mortician strode toward the statue. Halfway to the statue, a large, dark object swooped past his face. Concentration abruptly broken, and Albrecht was forced to look around the shadowy cave for the thing that nearly took off his head. Albrecht, investigation. 6, success, normal DT. Albrecht was able to track the object in its trajectory and watched it return to the ceiling's endless darkness above. It was perched just on the edge of the cave's shadows. A giant bat stared at the mortician with empty eyes that held a faint reflective glow. The beast opened its mouth, baring its long fangs as if to scream a warning, but no sound was heard. Albrecht halted. His gaze matched the bat's stare from above. "Curly!" The mortician's voice was full of caution and concern. "What?" The cowboy poked his head out from behind the boulder. "There's a bat." Albrecht carefully pointed to the ceiling. "It's a cave." Curly returned to his hiding position behind the rock. The cowboy's simple, flat response implied that bats were expected in a cave. However, this did not bode well for Albrecht, and he remained motionless, staring at the bat, carefully calculating his next action. No clear answers came from his calculations, so the mortician slowly, cautiously, resumed his movement toward the statue, while keeping his eyes on the giant bat. The bat scuttled across the jagged ceiling on wings and claws to a new vantage point where it continued to observe Albrecht. Curly forcefully inhaled and exhaled several times, then closed his eyes and pulled up his hero sheet. Curly, new base skill developed, mustache sense, level D2. The associated attribute is perception. Eyes opened, he quickly looked for the bat Albrecht spoke of. Despite his somewhat flippant response, the security guard did not want to leave anything to chance and thought it best to find this flying rodent. Curly, mustache sense. 3, success, normal DT. There, among the cave stalactite teeth, he could see the large pair of faintly glowing eyes. Curly's mustache twinged and bristled, confirming that he had identified the new threat that loomed overhead. The security guard quickly drew his pistols and pressed himself against the stone. Looking over at Franklin and Bizarria, Curly gave a short, loud whistle. Upon getting their attention, he made several hand signals indicating that they should look at the bat in the ceiling. "You found a bird flying in the cave?" Franklin loudly questioned the cowboy. Curly pointed forcefully toward the ceiling in response. Bizarria turned her head to see the cowboy making exaggerated arm and hand movements with pistols in each hand. "Why isn't he talking?" she wondered aloud. "I don't know," Franklin grumbled with a rankled shrug. The doctor then attempted to look in the direction Curly seemed to be gesturing. Franklin, quick ID. 4, success, normal DT. Following the aim of the cowboy's pistol, Dr. Meadowlark saw the giant bat hanging on the stalactite. Perturbation brushed Franklin's mind as he attempted to remember details about such bats. Franklin, rapid recall. 2, success, normal DT. Something twitched inside the doctor, and anxiety fought to find its place inside. He pushed through the gnawing twitch, forcing humor to be his mask. "I'm rolling super high right now. I just rolled a 2. Bez chuckled, but not at Franklin's sarcasm. She chuckled at the apathetic doctor nearby, the pretentious mortician further away, the devil of a ringmaster who started all of this. When she began this adventure, she saw these men run away from the ghost they feared. She looked deep inside, telling herself, forcing herself to know that she couldn't be like that. She would not run away from this ghost. "None of this is real. It's just a thing," Franklin whispered to himself. He turned and yelled loud enough for everyone to hear. "That's a giant fruit bat, and these guys like fruit, so quick, someone throw some fruit at it." Curly and Bizarria both eyeballed Franklin in response to his absurd suggestion. "Don't you guys watch any nature-type channels?" Franklin retorted. "Big bats. They like fruit." "Who has fruit?" Bez felt a new, small, glowing anger, and its embers began to burn at the fear inside her. "We didn't come prepared with fruit. Look!" The doctor pointed. The Magi looked up to the darkness and attempted to see what Franklin and Curly were talking about. "Bizarria, level 2. 2. Success. Normal DT." The humming became slightly muted in Bizarria's mind, and her focus improved. The giant bat's eyes reminded Bez of the large, shiny cymbals the clowns would bang during one of their acts. The embers of her anger were stoked as she leered at the dark creature in the ceiling. "After everything we've been through, I don't think that thing is looking for fruit. I just hope it's not looking for our blood." He stood before the statue, fixated on the task at hand. This smooth stone sculpture may have been a good and proud monument some time ago, but now Albrecht clearly saw it was tainted with evil. The mortician was compelled to find a way to cleanse this place and return the trapped souls to their realm. To do that, he first required his toothbrush. The foremost concern on the mortician's mind was cleansing the taint from his family's toothbrush. Albrecht reached out and grasped the Eisenberger toothbrush. A loud shriek tore through the steady sounds of the falling water, and 2 more bats swooped down. System messages scrolled success as Albrecht bobbed and weaved, deftly dodging the giant bats. The bats found perch back among the upper teeth of the cave, and as the creatures looked down, Albrecht looked within his hands. Finally, he had his toothbrush. The mortician cried out in excitement and pumped his fist high. The cave shadows danced and turned as he triumphantly raised the glowing toothbrush. Albrecht Eisenberger felt his soul lighten, and a broad smile lifted his face as he proudly held the toothbrush high. Another loud crack snapped at the apex of Albrecht's excitement. The slick floor shifted as the cracking and breaking of rock resounded throughout the cave. The rivulets of falling water became broader falls of water, and the small puddles below quickly formed wider, deeper pools. The rising water underfoot was black and ominous, like the ceiling shadows above, and its steady rise gave the impression that the cavernous maw was slowly closing, clamping down on everything inside. Albrecht clutched his toothbrush close and quickly positioned himself against the back of the statue, making sure that the evil stone figure was between him and the bats. The mortician took comfort in noticing that the stone figure only had eyes in the front of its face, and those evil eyes could not stare at him from here. Albrecht's cry of victory was a cue for chaos. As the tremors reverberated across the cave, the bats became provoked to aggression. Bearing large white fangs, one swooped down to attack the cowboy. Giant bat swoop versus Curly heel kick. 2 versus 5. Curly succeeds. Curly kicked the bat off its trajectory, causing it to hurtle into the pool of water nearby. The giant bat flopped around the puddle before righting itself and flying back to the ceiling. "You didn't shoot!" Bez called out above the falling water with one hand in her jacket. The magician held on to her small flame of anger and let it continue to burn at the fear of her past. "I thought better of it," Curly responded as he holstered his pistols. "I'm not going to use my gun in a cave." "Where do we go to get out?" The Magi shuffled around as she watched her island of cave floor rapidly shrink. "Curly, mustache sense. 4. Success. Normal DT." Curly scanned the pools of water, looking for one that might be draining, hoping that there would be a sign of an escape. Instead, The cowboy's mustache pulled up and directed his attention to something just as encouraging. In the far corner of the cave, a faint pale light leaked through a crack high in the ceiling. "There's a light over there!" Curly yelled. Curly ran for the next closest stalagmite that offered cover while getting closer to that corner of the cave. The security guard halted hard against the mineral column, looking left and right for swooping bats and the underboss, which the cowboy was sure would reveal itself any moment now. To his left, he saw the statue. He was still grateful to see that it had not moved. Behind the statue crouched the wild-eyed mortician pressed against the statue's back, also scanning the area for adversaries. Franklin focused on recalling another bat documentary when Curly's yelling about the exit interrupted his thoughts. Looking to the cowboy, the doctor watched as Curly ran deeper into the cave. The medical examiner quickly scanned the ceiling to ascertain the bat's locations and yelped as he successfully spotted a bat just above him, staring with large, empty eyes. Franklin promptly ran after Curly. "Wait, what?" Bizarria grabbed Franklin by the med bag, halting his escape. "I'm putting myself between the bat and you." Franklin shook his head. "Wait, I'm putting you between the bat and me." "Thanks." Her voice was devoid of gratitude and hot with anger. "You have throwing knives." "True. Wait, I thought you said these things ate fruit." The doctor shrugged and pointed to the ceiling. "Throw one of your knives at it." "Where?" Bez let go of Franklin and looked to the ceiling. "Anywhere." "We've got to get out of here," Bizarria exclaimed, shaking her head. She looked over her shoulder and realized she was only yelling to herself. Everyone else was already heading deeper into the cave. "I can't take this anymore." The Magi closed her eyes and pulled up the options menu. She needed to leave this dreadful adventure. She looked at the log-out button but stopped. No. No matter the dread, no matter the fears of those around her, no matter their abandonment, she would not be the one running. Bizarria closed the options menu and focused on the things she could not see. She focused on the small fire inside her. Opening her eyes, she scanned the ceiling. The system scrolled success as she caught a glint of the round, shiny bat eyes. On impulse, Bizarria threw a knife hard and long. Bizarria, throwing knives versus giant bat, flight. 5 versus 2. Bizarria succeeds. There was a loud squeal as the beast fell from the ceiling. It landed with a large splash in the pool of water below. "Got it!" Bizarria cheered excitedly. Her solo cheer was a bitter reminder that she was alone. The bat writhed and flung itself about, refusing to die from a single blow. Suspecting the giant bat would likely seek revenge, Bizarria turned and ran after Franklin. The Magi splashed through the pools and puddles littered about the cave. As her foot landed in one of the deeper pools, Bizarria felt something strong grab and pull her by the ankle. To her dismay, there was no floor in that puddle. Water. Pull versus Bizarria. Dexterity. 3 versus 3. Bizarria succeeds. Bizarria stumbled and rolled out of the deep puddle. Her feet were back on the hard cave floor, but the flame inside her flickered and wavered against the fear. What was that? Only the sound of falling water crashing throughout the cave answered her cry. What was that?